So today we have Khal Drogo versus the Mountain Gregor Clegane. So before we get started though, I need to talk about some stuff. I need to talk about this fight because it's gonna be a little different from my other fights. Khal Drogo doesn't have a lot of feats, okay? But this is one of my most fantasized matchups from the Game of Thrones universe when I was watching the show, and I really want to do this fight. So I'm gonna kind of even it up, making it a little more fair of a fight. Uh, Gregor will only. I'll be only using Gregor when he was alive, not when he was the unstoppable Jason Voorhees like thing that he was. And secondly, this fight would be like a trial by combat style of fighting, and I'll be using a composited version of both characters from the show and the books. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get it. Who wins? Well, let's talk about strength. Khal Drogo is described as being tall and muscular, and he did easily rip a guy's tongue out through his throat with just his bare hands. uh, but that does not compare feat wise with the Mountain. Gregor Clegane is called the Mountain for a reason. He's the biggest guy on Westeros. Okay. He's massive and incredibly strong. In the show, he was 6'9", but in the books, he was close to 8 feet tall. He spent most of his life slaughtering and gutting people. He's known for slicing knights, armored knights, in half, and for crushing Oberyn Martell's skull with his bare hands. He also wields a 6 foot long longsword and uses it like a normal person would use a regular sword. Those swords are heavy, dude. Okay, it's just steel and they are heavy. Um, and he just uses it with one hand. Um, he nearly decapitated a horse with one swing, and he's stronger than his brother Sandor Clegane. Gregor is bigger and stronger than Drogo. He's also tougher. Like, yes, Drogo just smiled after being severely cut. We also know he has a scar on his leg while hunting a lion. But just look at what Gregor endured during his fight with Oberyn. After withstanding several slashes from his spear, Gregor then survived being stabbed through the chest with said spear, long enough to kill Oberyn. That's not even to mention the fact that Oberyn's spear was laced with a powerful poison. Still killed Oberyn before dying. Gregor takes this edge as well. Not to mention his plate armor that he wears. Yeah, he's taking this edge. But Drogo takes the edge in speed and mobility. Yes, Bronn said the Mountain is fast for his size, basically. But Drogo was described as graceful in combat, and his smaller, leaner size and build will allow him to move around a lot better than Gregor is in that heavy armor. But Sir Gregor does have the overall physical edge, being bigger, stronger, and tougher. Now let's move on to skill. Sir Gregor Clegane isn't necessarily a skilled swordsman, but his psychotic, overly violent, and cruel nature mixed with his near inhuman strength made him one of the most feared men in the realm. He was knighted by 15 or 16, I wasn't entirely sure, and entered House Lannister's services, typically commanding the Lannister vanguard. Brutalizing and killing people is his expertise, whether it's with his sword or with his bare hands. He's slaughtered groups of people and knights single-handedly. He's matched his brother, the Hound Sandor Clegane, in a brief fight, and he killed Oberyn Martell, one of the most lethal and skilled fighters in the world, in a trial by combat. Now, the Red Viper did technically beat the Mountain, but the Mountain still won because Oberyn died first. He wasn't as skilled as Oberyn, but he killed him in the end. Uh, but Drogo, on the other hand, was a gifted warrior even at a young age. The Dothraki are known for their savagery in combat. Robert Baratheon one of the greatest and strongest warriors ever, even said no army could take on the Dothraki on an open field. Khal Drogo lived his entire life, never had been defeated in combat. And we know that from how long his braid was. His braid had never been cut in his life, which is what the Dothraki do when they lose. No one in his Khalazar dared challenge him because of this. His Khalazar he led was 40,000 strong, the largest on the Dothraki Sea. And being a Khal basically it means you're a warlord. And Khal Drogo was one of, if not the greatest Khal ever, because of his win-loss record and because of how big his Khalazar was. I'd say Drogo is better here and can match Sir Gregor in just brutality and savagery. In terms of weapons, like I mentioned earlier, Gregor Clegane has his massive sword, which does give him a reach advantage. Khal Drogo carried an araka, which are these medium-sized curved blades, kind of like a scythe, and it's said that his skill with these were unrivaled. He's also been seen with knives as well. So, who wins? The Mountain is physically bigger, stronger, tougher, has plate armor, and his sword gives him a massive reach advantage. Khal Drogo is faster, more agile, more skilled, and can match Sir Gregor in terms of savagery and brutality, which might throw the Mountain off a little. So, I'm just going to come out and say it. The Mountain is winning this one. Yes, Khal Drogo is faster and more skilled, like Oberyn was, and would be able to get in close like Oberyn could have done if he needed to. Could have closed that gap, because if he gets in between him and his sword and Sir Gregor's sword, Gregor's going to have a hard time swinging that sword to hit him, right? But Oberyn, and Oberyn would have beaten Clegane too because of his speed and skill. But Oberyn had advantages Khal Drogo doesn't. Like, Oberyn used a spear, which actually gave him the reach advantage instead of Sir Gregor. His spear was also laced with a powerful poison, which slowly killed him. Oberyn was also just a smarter fighter than Khal Drogo, and knew where the weak spots were on plate armor, which is how he was able to injure the Mountain during their fight. Khal Drogo won't know this, which is a huge problem, because Arakis aren't meant for piercing through tough armor. Also, the Dothraki always seem to fight head-on, running straight at their enemy. That won't work here, because that's what Clegane wants Drogo to do. And again, Drogo won't know that. Clegane just has every needed advantage to beat Khal Drogo. Now, if he wasn't wearing the armor, the field would be drastically evened. That could be a fight Khal Drogo could win. But honestly, I think both of them would just die to their injuries eventually anyways. But nonetheless, the Mountain Gregor Clegane wins. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Leave a comment of what you thought and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all that great stuff. I truly do appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace!